all, I want to thank you all for being here. Not a lot of people want to go out on a Friday night and listen to a women's history living speaker series panel. Whew, and if anybody can repeat that perfectly, I owe you a drink.
Women's history speaker panel.
All right. You missed series, but I love you and will buy you a drink if you're allowed one. So I'm gonna say real quick, my name's Maria Stats. Normally somebody would introduce me, but I'll just introduce myself. He's over there smiling, it's fine.
This is Maria Stats. She is our board president and a force of nature, and this would not have happened without her. So applause for Maria Stats.
Yeah, girl. If you know me outside of theater, you know me for politics, so this is one of my fave things to do is panel discussion about women's stuff. You might know me as the first ever DEI chair for the National Organization for Women here in California. Helen Greco was my mama and mentor, and yeah, so I have a lot of fun hanging out with women and just hashing out issues. So first of all, I want to thank you all for being here, not just the lovely audience, but our panelists. Each one of you are so busy that I can't believe I got you all in the same place on a Friday night. I appreciate you, I thank you. When we looked at this year's theme, which was all about legacy and mentorship and teaching, there was immediately, I was like, oh, thank God, I'm surrounded by amazing teachers and people who, whether or not they want to be, have fallen into mentorship positions. I don't really think mentor is the name you can give yourself. It's kind of like ally, somebody hands it to you or it's not really there. And each one of these ladies I've seen as amazing mentors in our community. First up is Liberty Pearson, who I met several years ago down at Artisan. And she is an amazing teaching artist. And when you're around her, it's almost like there's oxygen in the room again and you can breathe and take a minute, which in my opinion is one of the most refreshing things about her teaching. And so if there's anything you'd like to add about that?
Specifically what I do, so besides being a teaching artist, I'm also a pyrography artist, multimedia artist, and graphic designer. So that's more my creative background. That'll be it.
And then Faye, I will let her give you her full name correctly. I've known I won't admit how long I've known Faye because then you'll start to be able to do the math. But she is an amazing advocate for theater, for youth, for the arts, for women's empowerment. She does everything from choreography to founding her own dance studio to empowering her students to be leaders at other dance studios. And she also teaches like a women's boxing class. There's not much my friend cannot do, so I'm really surprised that she's here in real life speaking, because she's usually out there hustling. Said with the most respect.
Yeah.
If there's anything else you'd like to add?
Sure. I'm the founder, owner, and artistic director of Bliss Urban Arts Center. It's a dance studio in Vacaville, and Bliss Dance Company. It's a competitive dance team. And Bliss Life Holistic. I'm also a massage therapist on the side. I teach women's boxing. I also do poetry. I have a few albums out in the ethers. Third one coming soon. And I host shows. I do comedy. I talk like this. And I think you said, how to pronounce my name. It's pronounced Fatina. It means gorgeous in Arabic, but everybody calls me Faye. There you go.
Adrian. Now, Adrian, I was excited to get up here because she represents a lot of, in my opinion, underrepresented groups. She is a mama, she is a student, and she is a student teacher. She recently just took a group of crazy kids out to the Junior Theater Festival, the world's largest theater festival in the world. And she got to train and work with people from around the world. And I just feel it's super important to also have a student, especially one who's working on becoming a teacher, give their opinion. So I want to thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm not as cool as these guys, but that's about it.
Don't believe her. She's amazing. Thank you for being here. And if I had 10 years, I could give you all the organizations and boards that she currently helps and facilitates amazing events with. But most famously known for the Ballet Folklorico group Moon Azteca, just recently opened up a studio at the Myra Theater. She's also a teaching artist. She's also a baker. She does so many things that I'm exhausted just announcing them. Yahaira, is there anything else you'd like?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Maestra Yahaira. Actually, I just graduated as an early child educator, so I like to call myself Maestra because I am also a certified dance and arts teacher for SEP, the Secretary of Public Education in Mexico. So I am certified in 75 different regions of Mexico with arts, dance, tradition, history of Mexico. Yes, I do bake. I open a business, Lunita's Kitchen. And gosh, it's the one that has been supporting Moon Azteca in the last 5 years. Prior to that, I was a nurse for 20 years. And gosh, I'm really grateful and thankful for being here tonight.
Next is Melissa. Melissa is one of those people that I would consider an arts and culture bearer. She is. You're currently still on the board for 7th Generation Tribal Council, or you just
Yes.
were? Yes.
He's the chairman. He's the chairman.
Oh, she's the chairman, so my friend is extra fancy. She's amazing. She's a community advocate. She makes sure that underrepresented stories are told. She's out in the community, whether it's at Book Fest, whether it's at MMIW Day or Transgender Day of Remembrance. She's out there advocating for the people in this community and brings that to everyone, no matter what their age, and that's why she's asked to be here.
I know that pretty much sums it up.
So the first total softball, easy question. Who was the person that helped you be the teacher or mentor that you are today? It can be as simple as just one word. You can tell I'm a mom. See how I made it easy for them? It can be just one word, ladies. So if you've got that, and jump in, don't be shy, or I'll call on you.
One person?
One person that you found super influential, that you could look back and be like, yeah, no, that was a turning point for me. That was a turning point person.
I'll start and be cheesy.
Go ahead.
My mom.
The one word answer.
You know what? When I was younger, it didn't used to be my mom. We used to butt heads all the time. But you know what? The one person that I can look to inspire me to do the one thing in life that I aspire to do is to build a village is my mom. That woman, she's built a city, okay? Not a village. And, you know, she can meet so many different people no matter where she goes, and she can just build it from the ground up. So she's inspired me to do that. So I'll spiel to start it.
Nice. I have one. Well, if it's one word, I want to say many. Because as I look back, there's someone along the way in every part of my life. And it's usually been an educator or a mentor. And yes, my mother when I was much younger, but the older I got, I was given to the influence of these other women in my life. So I would have to say many because I'd have to go down a list as I go through the years.
I would say the same. I would say a lot, but I would also use the word self because, like, as I became a mentor, I realized I was becoming to other people what I wished I had when I was younger. So I would say self on top of the many.
I would say every single woman I met in my life. I have learned a lot of things from every woman that I met in my life, a little bit from here, a little bit from there, so it would be unfair for me to mention just one. So I would say, for all of those out there who know me and have mentored me, thank you. It has made me who I am right now and working on being better.
Okay, so my answer for that is my ancestors. Because without those strong women allowing the generations to continue after them, we would not be here. We would not have those stories. We would not have those lineages, those connections, the ability to connect to others around us, or similarities or differences. So without my grandmother, I would not be here because she made choices to continue. That allowed my mother to become present, which allowed me to be present.
Oh, I'm loving it. I love the variety of answers. Thank you, Leah, so much. Okay, so another totally easy one. If you could give advice to somebody on how to advocate for students, other women, just for their sphere. Each one of you have a crazy specific influence in your communities, right? You each, every day, impact a certain group in our culture. And so I'm wondering, if you were talking to somebody who looked up to you, what words of advice, or shoot, if it makes it easier, what would you tell your 12-year-old self? I didn't mean to blow anybody's mind. Adrian's linking at me real hard.
You say, what would you tell them as far as how to advocate for themselves or others? Is that what you're saying?
Just to advocate for the community, because what I see, and please correct me, ladies, if you guys have a different view on it, I see a lot of problems with, in my personal sphere. I haven't had a lot of women, handfuls, and they're the most powerful ones in my world. But I haven't always had a strong community of women, and so it's really important to be like, well, how do I advocate not only for myself, but making sure that when I do that, it's advocating for others. Do you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry. Sometimes I'm a little too verbose, so. Yeah, hi.
Be yourself. My advice to everyone who wants to be an inspiration in the community, or just young students, as I am teaching in different schools here in the city, around the city, I always tell my students, be yourself, be honest, be really, truly who you are. Do not try to copy someone else. Do not try to be someone else. Do not try to fit those shoes that are not yours. Walk by yours with your own honest heart, and that's gonna be you're gonna get attraction, and you're gonna get inspire other people to follow.
I would say being consistent in your integrity, because people will respect you more if you're consistent in your integrity than if you are kind of up and down with it. I know with like my students and the ones that have been loyal to my studio and loyal to the work, they stick around because of the fact that I'm consistent in helping them outside of dance, not just in dance, for example, things like that. So, and I notice like also outside of dance, dance is just a vessel that brings us together, but outside of that, like just like being present and holding space for them when they're in a space of trying to figure things out, needing advice, questioning their identity, questioning the world around them, and just like allowing them without judging them to say, feel, and do whatever they need to do without even giving advice, without even just being present for them, I would say. If that's a clear enough answer.
No, I love it because it's such a connected answer too. She's saying, be true to yourself, and you're like, accept people where they are, be yourself and accept the other people's selves. So I love the connection.
I'd like to add to not be afraid to walk by yourself. Mm-hmm. The crowd is not always the right answer. And to have that courage to stand in your own shoes, to know what your own shoes should look like, and not be afraid to wear them. So many of our young people feel like in order to be accepted, they have to conform.
Yeah.
But they were made in their own mold. They were made with their own purpose. It's identifying what that is and purposefully walking in it. Because we're going to have different crowds around us, but that doesn't mean we're meant to be in that crowd, maybe for a moment, to see and realize what the differences are. But if that crowd is not for you, go. Keep going. Find your way. You will find your way.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, 100%.
I would want to say, talking to my younger self and a lot of the young people and people my age, and sometimes my mentors as well, is three things. One, to take up space. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't take it, somebody else will. for my older mentors, I have to remind them that when they have a seat at the table, they need to take that seat at the table, because if they're not in that seat, someone else is. The other thing is to know your worth. Especially our young ladies. You know, we're used to being undercut, and so a lot of us have to fight for what we're worth, and it's hard to fight for what you're worth if you don't know what your worth is. So for them to know their worth and to have empathy for yourself and for everyone else. It's just, if it was something I could be reminded of every day, and nowadays I remind myself of it every day, I think it would help me see a path to success. Because without knowing that I should take up space, and without knowing what my worth is, and being authentically yourself, and being yourself and not having to be like someone else, that's part of knowing your worth. Like being able to say, like, I can be myself. I don't have to be like everyone else. Take up space. Yeah. I think that's really valuable.
Well, to add to that too, we have to be mindful of older generations, you know, certainly, and in my own experience, you know, when you're working with younger ones, you get a lot of harsh voices that try to validate who you are, so you take that in. But it's important to remind them that not everybody can tell the difference between a cubic zirconia and a diamond. It does not mean you are not any less a diamond. So it's understanding how to listen deeper, take the little bit of constructive criticism, leave the rest as garbage. We do not need to keep dragging generational trauma forward.
Right, correct.
You know, we need to be that stopgap to heal our young ones, so they don't have to carry the burdens our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, our mothers, even ourselves have had to get us to the point we're at today. It's important to understand that you have to identify yourself first as that diamond before you let anybody call you a cubic zirconia.
Okay, I love it. I know nobody asked me, but I definitely have very strong beliefs about this. I'm gonna let you gather your thoughts, Adrian, because I'm seeing you looking at me. And then just, it's okay to outgrow things, whether it be places or people, and that mistakes are so good for you. You don't learn if you're always right. If you always succeed, there's nothing to grow from. And something that I still struggle with today, but I'd like to grab my 12-year-old self and shake her about it, boundaries are free. Knowing what you need and having those set boundaries, I strive every day to be more strong in that. So, Adrian, do you have more to add about this?
I mean, you guys all summed it up pretty well, but I think the one thing that I would tell myself is to be confident and have courage, because it takes a lot of courage to do what you guys all said, right? It takes a lot of courage to stand out and take up space, to have a growth mindset. It takes a lot of courage to understand that you have room to grow and have confidence that you can be better. So I guess that would be it.
If you were, like, let's just say you were the magician of the world, you could change one thing, like you wave a magic wand and tomorrow something would be changed for all women, what would that thing be?
So many.
That's a tough one.
They're like, wait a minute, I've got a list.
I think it would be the absence of ego. We allow male ego to dominate. We allow our own egos to dominate. We allow community-centered egos to dominate. And that absolutely negates autonomy, acceptance, and it impacts how we move collectively as well as individually. But if you take ego out and we're genuinely there supporting and listening to each other with love and support, with, you know, focusing on a more centralized plan versus a more self-centered plan, that would resolve so many issues in the world, particularly for women's safety. You know, because we all understand the inherent risk of what it is to be female in any form. You know, And the fact that we have to continue discussing women's safety as if it needs to be, the fact that it has to be legislative, it's not even an automatic thought. It has to be legislated, and even then, it's restrictive, it's not punitive to the harmer or anybody else. So where does that really place value with women? So if we can get rid of the egos, get rid of the egocentrism in our community, and all collectively work together to support each other, we would resolve so many issues.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Very
I
nice.
know, we're
That's a good one.
today, guys.
I would kind of bounce off of what she said to the last question, which was self-worth. Because if all of us, all women had more self-worth, or like right away, for example, it would probably prevent so many things from happening that could happen or would happen, right? If like with no self-worth, we make certain choices, or certain things would happen because of our choices, but then it would prevent a lot of things from happening. So I'm kind
I
of,
have a question. I'm sorry.
No, you're
guys.
fine.
She just piqued my interest in such a way that I have to have a follow-up.
sure.
So you said if people were just like endowed with self-worth from jump,
Immediately,
right?
yeah.
But my question to you is, aren't they? Because when you work with like little tiny kids, especially girls, you see the flip. Like I've been very lucky enough to teach from kindergarten all the way through college, and there are very obvious changes, especially in young women as you see
Right,
them
when they're-
develop. And I'm just curious if there's more, we need a resurgence or a protection from those who try to take away self-worth.
Yeah, because that conditioning after a certain age is when it
Yeah.
shifts, right? Like when they hit a certain adolescent age, I would say.
I'm
And so
even
maybe
thinking
like,
before that.
yeah, like keeping it, I
Because
guess,
a loud-
rather than giving it.
A loud boy is a leader in class, and girls who talk too much are chatty or bossy. I still, when I was in the classroom, I would see it sometimes with other teachers and be like, guys, we don't do that anymore. You know, and it's an education, so I was just really curious about that, because self-worth is such a tricky thing, because while
Right.
it is ours to grow,
Yeah.
boy, it's environmentally,
Yeah, no, conditioning
Influence,
changes everything.
yeah.
So like, I guess the best way to word it is making sure no one loses it. Because we are, you're
Yes.
right, we are born with it.
Yeah,
We're born perfect, you know.
I love it. Anybody else have anything to say?
If I could remove something, I had a magic wand and remove, it will be not just one thing, it will be a couple of things. Hate and that competition with other women.
Yeah.
That hate that you sometimes see, or that threat, just because you're fighting so hard to have, or working so hard to have, or create a dream that you had, and other women feeling threatened by you because you're working so hard to achieve what you've dreamed of. You know, that competition in between us, of women, that will be one of the things that I will remove.
Yeah.
So we could all support each other and help each other and grow together. Why do we have to push each other from, away, or shut the door just because you are working really hard on getting something? So that will be something that I will remove for sure.
I know, we're all about women supporting women on this panel.
That's right.
All right.
I was, it's not quite on the same topic as everybody else has been talking about, but it is something I'm very passionate about. I would remove the burden of beauty standards.
Ooh. Yeah.
And the insecurities that brings out, the competition, definitely something I feel strongly about. I feel like a lot of confidence gets lost when kids hit that age, where they start realizing that kind of stuff, and it just carries with us forever.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, the burden is on ourselves, and the burden is also from other people. You know, the burden is in the media. And once you get that thought in your head that you have to attain something that is not yourself, it's hard to let that go, and it is so heavy. It's probably the heaviest burden I deal with, or have dealt with as a young person.
That's good.
Totally.
I would remove social norms, but I also feel compelled to comment on what you said about competition and that we need to uplift each other. I feel like especially right now, when we feel like we're moving backwards with women's rights, not to get political, but to get political, like we just got the right to vote in 1920s. That's 100 years ago. That's not even that far behind. And then we got a lot of traction in the 60s and 70s with the women's rights movement. And to move back so quickly after all that work, it's terrible. So we just need to uplift and build confidence in the newer generation of girls so that they can then have confidence to not let anyone tear them down. That's all I'm saying.
But to go back to that, though, being a woman is political.
Yes.
You know, and to go back to history, it was in my generation, and I'm not even that old, I'm not going to say how old I am, but I mean the fact that my mother could not open her own line of credit until the 80s. And being a woman of color, it was even harder. So yeah, while women may have been granted the right to vote in the 20s, a lot of women of color did not have access to vote, to be represented, to have their voice, their vote counted in the polls. Even now, it's still a struggle. This last election, there was voter suppression on the reservations, off the reservations. So we were, and being Native American, our citizenship was technically granted in 1924, but a lot of tribes had to wait until much later to have the same access to the same rights. So, you know, we may not want to see being female as political. It is very much a political thing, because if they have the right to legislate our uterus, that they are defining our worth by uterine protection. And I am so much more than a uterus, you know. All the women in my family, my nieces that I look at, they need to understand they are way more valuable than just what their uterus can pump out. You know, so no, I'm going to respectfully disagree. Being a woman is a political thing.
Yeah, honestly, that's why these questions are so, I think all of them are super charged no matter how we look at it right now. Especially for some of us who are just sitting here numb, because at least for me, don't narrow it down too quickly, but at least for me, I've been alive during a time when we always could have certain things and that we had certain rights in place. And so to live in a time when our daughters have less rights than we did at their ages, wow. And also why I really wanted to check in with a group of women who are actively working with young people, who are actively checking the pulse of things. Next question is, how are you doing in the trenches? Because it doesn't matter your political affiliation, it doesn't matter whatever. There's going to be a student that comes up to you. There's going to be some kid who, to get personal without getting too personal, because we have a person in my family who wakes up every night having nightmares because they think the police are going to take them away because they don't identify in the same way that their body represents. So when, as teachers, as mentors, as advocates, you guys really are on the front lines with these kids who often don't feel represented. They don't feel like they have elected officials. They don't have a vote. You are the people who advocate for them the most in life, outside of their parents.
I want to share something that really left me impacted. Recently, I was at a school teaching folklorico, Mexican folklore. We're talking about Mexico, right? And I introduce myself, I get there, I introduce myself, and I tell them, what are we going to be doing, right? And one of the students raised their hand, and he goes, I was like, yes, you have a question. And he goes, we shouldn't be learning this. And I said, why? Do you know that if you're Mexican, ICE is going to come and take us all? It was one of the hardest questions, and I said, how do I put this? How do I explain this, right? But he left me cold, completely. Because that's the reason I went into teaching traditional folk dance, is because I'm proud of their culture. I'm proud of our traditions. I'm proud of our history. And it was hard for me to answer that question, to the point that I said, you guys shouldn't be watching news that often, because I was like, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
And then get called into the office because I said something that I was not supposed to. So the teacher looks at me and she was like, don't even say anything, right? And I felt that restriction as a woman, as a person, as a human being. And I said, this is not right. So I went home and I asked my 13-year-old son, and I said, do you feel threatened like that? Because we don't watch the news, we don't watch anything that is gonna, disturb our heads. And he's like, yes, Mom, La Migra is coming to our school. And I was like, what? Those things, it started shaking me. And I said, are you thinking that that's gonna happen yet? He's like, yeah, that's gonna happen to all of us. So I'm like, it's very hard. This is hard times. And how do you explain that to our children? Really, really hard. So being restricted from what you are, from what you're doing, and what you want, the knowledge that you want to bring to the kids, it's painful, really painful.
But we
I can
can't
add to
ignore
that.
history either. This isn't the first time this happened. This happened in the 30s when they were doing their roundups, and literally the government was paying trains to take them and drop them off in central Mexico. Didn't matter their status. They would go to the markets, scoop them up, toss them on a train, no chance to contact families, no documentation, go, just gone. And it was anybody who was brown. This is not the first time. And so this is very telling, being in a history museum. And that is not one of the things we are discussing, is we have seen all this happen before, but we choose not to pay attention to history. And to deny our children our history is not teaching them how to survive what's coming, because we already have the playbook of what they've done. We need to go back, read it, and empower these kids to know how we overcame it last time. We are proof of our own resilience by being here today. We are not easy to get rid of. We have to choose to fight, though. But to fight, you have to have knowledge, and that means learning the history. I had questions asked at work, because we have a number of coworkers who have relocated from Mexico, and they were asking, where can I go around here to find a museum? I want to know about the history of this area. And they're like, but because we could not find anything. And I'm like, okay, let me ask you this. Where do you think the history starts here in the United States? Where do you think the starting point is that they start teaching here in the United States? And they're like, well, I don't know. I said, when did the United States start? That is the point they start teaching. But here in California, if you know, this was started not as the United States. This was indigenous land. And then Mexico tried to take it over, and then they sold it to the US. But how much of you know what those states, what those treaties look like, what the responsibility was? Who managed what? Who told those stories? How much of your own history are you sharing with the younger generations? Those are important things, because they all hold keys to teach us how to fight what is coming. That is not something we can ignore.
No, I agree 100%, but I also respectfully, coming from a classroom setting, it's, some of us live paycheck to paycheck, and some of us really are held to task about what we have. I mean, we have currently, making national news, a teacher who is going to be fired if she doesn't take down a sign that says, we are all welcome.
So to answer that, and just from my own experience and how I was taught, how I was raised, there is formalized education that is sanctioned by the governments, and then there is community education. And that is where that has to be taught, because we have to make up that gap through us, through what the schools are not allowed to talk about. So who takes responsibility for that? Why do we let that slip? Because it's not sanctioned through the schools. We all have voices. We all know our histories. We need to pass that down. Oral traditions never went away. but how we choose to see them apparently has. We have social media, we have, places like this. So where are we holding that obligation to make sure we're taking advantage of every single format and opportunity available to bring that history forward? And it is more so as women because historically we've always done it. We've always shared with each other medicine that we've needed to survive whatever happened to us. Whether it's birth control remedies, whether it's how to cover up bruises, or how to hide a knife in your boot and not get caught. I mean, we all have taught each other how to utilize what we can to survive. So why would that change when it comes to teaching history?
I have two answers to your question. One is kind of bouncing off of your experience. I'm Palestinian American, first generation. My parents are from Palestine. And it's interesting, I have a Palestinian flag in my studio, and it's been up since before the October 7th attack. It's been up there for years. I'm Palestinian, and I'm proud to be Palestinian. And thank you. And so, after things got hot and heated, there's propaganda, and of course the media is revolved around supporting Israel. And it is what it is, but I waited some time. I wanted to do an artistic piece for one of my productions, and early on I was too angry, and I knew that if I created art off anger, it would come off a whole different way than if I waited till my anger turned into purpose. Does that make sense? Yes. And so this past January, before the show, I decided 2 months prior, I'm going to do a piece, and I'm going to do something that isn't like necessarily saying anything poor against Israel or saying you have to support Palestine, but I want to give an interpretation of what I believe is happening, and just for the audience to see it from a human version and not a pick a side version, right? Mm-hmm. And so I finally got to that space where I could come from that angle and not come from a pick sides angle or anything like that. And I remember talking to my mom about it, and I said, can you translate this for me? I'm going to put this, I understand Arabic, but I can't speak it perfect. And I was like, I'm doing a routine for my show. And so my mom was born and raised in Palestine, but she was born maybe 5 or 6 years after Israel became a thing. So her parents and my dad's parents experienced all the changes, yeah. And when they were young, they were taught, as soon as they came to America, to not tell people they're Palestinian and to be afraid to be who they are and to actually just say that they're Middle Eastern. And so for years and years growing up, I didn't even know what I was, right? We would go to church and we would go to Palestine Day events, but I'd be like, okay, what are we? Until we got older, and they didn't even want to teach certain traditions because of propaganda and all the things. Anyways, I start to tell my mom I'm going to do this number, and she is against it, and she's like, you shouldn't do that. What if people stop coming to your studio and your kids stop dancing there and the parents get upset? I'm like, so I'm supposed to not be proud of who I am and not present my art the way I want to because I'm afraid I'm going to lose tuition from a kid who's offended that I'm a Palestinian American? Or are they offended because what? It didn't make sense to me, but I fought against that. And so what I did was I made it optional to my senior dancers, the experienced ones, and I said, this is what I'm getting ready to do. If you'd like to be in it, and if your parents will give you permission, because it was a little bit, there was some violence in it, I said, who would like to be in it? 20 kids volunteered, 20 teenagers. All of their parents were like, go for it, we can't wait to see it. And we put the piece up, and it was phenomenal, and people in the audience were crying and loving it and all the things, and even my mom afterwards was like, you did that beautifully, and she felt bad for even telling me not to, yeah? But the point is my kids, when the ones who volunteered, all they knew was what they saw on social media, yeah? So I had to sit them down, and we had to have these heart-to-hearts, and I had to kind of express here's my experience, here's historically what is really going on, here's what you're hearing on the news. I'm not going to tell y'all what to believe and what to think, but this is the piece we're going to do, and this is how we're going to present it. Are y'all understanding of that? And they were all for it. And so being able to educate them on something that a lot of them didn't know about was a beautiful thing, and so that's why I can relate to that, because it was a special thing, but it was also coming from a hard place, right? But that's one side of the question, and then the second side of it would be, it was hard with the whole trenches thing that you were saying, yeah. Because I grew up with the tough love, and so as a younger teacher, when I started Bliss, I was only 22, I'm 43. And I had tough love as an instructor, and as the times changed, especially after COVID, And there was like a big social anxiety grew, mental health grew, and all of a sudden I was like, these kids are extremely more sensitive than they used to be, and I have to change the way I speak to them. It got very hard, and you know, I sound like a hard ass when I say that.
Choreographing me before, that's why I'm making that.
It's like, I was like, well, I gotta be nicer. Oh, I gotta change my tone. I can't just be like, get up, do push-ups. What are you doing? Like, I couldn't even be strict.
Yeah.
It got to a point where I was like, are they too sensitive or am I just mean? I couldn't even figure out what was really going on. And then of course, with all the different, I'm gonna sound so ignorant, but with the LGBTQ plus community, and then some of my students who used to identify as he were now identifying as they, and of course I honor and respect that, and then I would slip and say he, and then feel terrible, and then had to learn, and then apologize and cry, I'm so sorry. Learning and changing with the times was such a challenge for me, but of course I adapted, but I think for me, it's trying to hold space and be present and honor and not judge. That's all easy, but trying to adapt and change was also hard because I come from such a different background, and I had that tough love on me as a kid, so I always thought it was necessary. But I realize now I've become a nicer teacher over the years, and I'm I guess it's a good thing, but I still have that discipline element in there. But I did have to shift with the times, so that was hard for me. I would say that when it comes to being in the trenches, and then also staying true to who I am and what I believe, and letting my students know, if my mom said, if you really have a problem with me being a Palestinian American and you want to go dance somewhere else, bye. What do you want me to say? I don't want you here if you don't support what we got going on. It's so I told my mom, I said, if I have to lose business, clientele, massage clients, anything, if I have to lose anything so that I can't be true to who I am, then I'd rather lose that, because the people who are meant to be there will. So ultimately, that's what it boiled down to when I told my students that. They received it really well. So I just went on a rant, but I hope that answered your question with my 2 stories. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, totally. I so wanted to say that too, but since it was a school, I'm I can probably say that in my studio with Muna Seca students, but not at the studio.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But not at a school.
Because that's how I was I would have said, I had a long list to answer back to that student, but just looking at the teacher, she was like,
right.
I was like, oh,
that's tough.
okay.
Liberty.
You know?
Any thoughts? No thoughts. I mean, it's Adrian's I don't feel like I'm always in the trenches. It's okay. Oh, I really respect you guys for. Honestly, I don't know how everybody is getting through the day, let alone going, not just functioning, but then teaching and then dealing with all that comes to you when you teach. So, who was your favorite teacher and why? And I know that's a really rough question because there are so many amazing teachers. I'm sorry, some of us have been really lucky and had amazing teachers, so whoever, don't y'all answer at once. Wait, am I the only one? Okay.
I have one, and she's always been the one. It's Mrs. Keene. She was my high school art teacher. I had her freshman to junior year because I went to independent studies after that, but it was Mrs. Keene. I was a troubled teenager, and she let me go to her class whenever I didn't want to be anywhere else. And when I say that art saved my life, I'm gonna get emotional.
No, I understand.
Yeah, that's real.
It's real, yeah.
That person.
Yeah, that's amazing. We love you, Miss Keene, wherever you are. Anybody else?
I do, Mr. Francis, or Maestro Francis. He was a immigrant who came to my little tiny town in the state of Sinaloa. It's a very tiny town. I don't know how he got there and what made him choose that specific little tiny town, but I was in high school and I always had a dream of becoming a person who can serve, right? I always wanted to serve and help. So there was this class where you could take the whole course to be a nurse, right? But I was born and raised in Sinaloa, not having the money to do it. And he was our English teacher. So I said, oh, I would love to take that class, but I can't really do that because I don't have the money to pay for it. And he goes, oh, don't worry about it. I got you. I want to make sure that you go every Saturday morning from 8 to 3 and take the class. I'll take care of the payments. And I was like, no, you are not doing that. What do I have to give back, right? Right away as a woman, right? Because we go through those things. And I said, and what do you want me to do, to pay back? And he was like, nothing. I just want you to actually do it and graduate. And that's how I became a nurse. And then I moved to the United States, and the doctor that I worked for asked me, and I said, well, I am a certified nurse, but not here, I'm certified in Mexico. So I got certified in a year. When I was 16, I got my certification as a nurse, and it's the person that teacher that I will always thank. And before I went back to Mexico, I said, one day if I meet him and he's still alive, I'm gonna go and say thank you to him. Guess what? Last year I went to visit, and I was at the bank getting some money out, and I turn around and I see him there. I started crying, hugging him, and he didn't know who I was. And then I said, well, I'm these. And he's like, no way, what are you doing here? I'm like visiting, and I'm so thankful, and I want to thank you for what you did for me.
That's beautiful. So, anybody else a favorite teacher or something?
I have like 4, but they were actually all dance teachers, but the thing I got out of them the most was like life lessons, right? So like I had one, her name is Makaya, and she taught me through dance, I learned about commitment, right? Just in general, like if you made a commitment to something, you stick to it. My second favorite dance teacher, her name was Luana, and I learned a lot about accuracy, being specific, being correct, fighting to get it right, things like that. I had another one, Dr. Goodrich in Sacramento, and she was such a boss, and she had so many, accolades and things about her that she accomplished, but she was still had that childlike energy with dance and culture, she brought that out. And then, and then Lisa Clark, if anyone knows her, she's from out here, but man, she was sharp, and she just taught me about discipline. And so growing up, coming from more of a traumatic upbringing, I wasn't able to look up to my mom because she was more of the one I feared, yeah. Mm-hmm. And my older sister and I weren't close then, so I looked to these other women outside of regular school through dance that kind of taught me about being a woman or being just an adult or a human. So I would say those are probably the 4 women that kind of helped shape me.
Lucky to have so many great teachers.
Luckily.
I have, I've had many wonderful people that I've been blessed to encounter throughout my life, but just real quickly, the most impactful teacher I had at a very low point in my life was my 2-month-old son. I was brand new, learning how to be a mom. I had plans to go to school, and I tested in the top 3, but the teacher said because of my delivery date, I needed to wait until the next class. That was going to be the last class they were ever going to teach. I was going to get my laboratory certification and become a medical laboratory technician and support myself and my son. And so I go back, he's 2 months old, they're getting ready for all the sign-ups, the last semester for this class. And the teacher tells me, well, you have to retest. And I'm like, no, you promised me my seat. He's all like, well, then just come in and do the interview and we'll reevaluate. Okay, fine. Go in and I do the interview, and he proceeds to tell me that there is no space for me in his next class. I had a 2-month-old, I needed to stay home and breastfeed. I needed to get my husband's permission. And I'm just all like, what? Hold on, am I hearing this correctly? I would miss too many classes to take my non-English speaking relatives to the doctor. And I'm thinking, what relatives do I have that don't speak English? We don't know any other languages.
Wow.
And I'm like, do you have me confused with somebody else? And he's all like, bottom line, I cannot let you into this class. You would be irresponsible and you're just not going to be a good fit. And so I'm devastated. I was looking forward to getting somewhere in life. And this was my dream, to always be in science. I wanted to be a scientist. This was a good step to support me and my son while on that journey. And so I'm just in shock. I go home and then I pick up my son and I just start crying. And then he starts crying. And now we're looking at each other and we're both just crying. So we have a good cry and I'm all like, okay, for him. I have to do something about this for him. And he became like my sole motivation, because now I was done crying. I was pissed. And what you don't want to get in the way of is a postpartum pissed off mom.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's the truth. Yeah.
So looking at him, I'm like, okay, we're going to do something about this. Called the school district, because this was through ROP at the time. Explain the situation, talk to the secretaries in the ROP office, and they're like, wait, no, we have your name on here. You're supposed to be here. And I'm like, this is what, and I just kind of let it all out. I'm not going to repeat some of the words I use, not appropriate for radio. And they're like, whoa, that's not right. And I'm all like, how do I make it right? I need to be in that class. I am not missing this. I will show up every day. I will sleep under the desk if I have to. Tell me you can help me make this happen. And so one of the district superintendents at the time got a hold of me, because he got about 10 missed calls, 4 different emails from the ladies in the office, and like a whole bunch of other messages like, this is an urgent situation, you need to deal with this right now. And so he pulled up the records, talked to the ladies in the office, talked to the teacher, and then called me back and said, you know what, you have your seat, show up for class, this is it, and on top of that, we're going to give you a scholarship to cover the cost of your books and materials for the first 3 months until you get to your internship. He's like, I believe in you, I'm sorry this happened, good luck.
That's great.
And out of pure spite, because again, you gotta remember, I'm still postpartum here, okay? I showed up every day to class and made sure I sat in that front row, so he could not ignore me.
Good.
And then, you know, kind of took it off from there. But it's that motivation.
Yeah.
You know, it was that purpose for fighting for it and realizing that I needed to use my voice for myself if I wanted to protect him.
Yeah.
If I didn't want to end up on welfare. If I didn't want to be all these things I was told my entire pregnancy. He deserved better. But that meant I had to respect that I deserved better. And that was a very powerful teaching moment that I got from my son.
I really like that. I think that we always can learn from our children. I mean, I learn from my daughter every day. She inspires me to have patience, or she reminds me to have patience every day, to have fun. And I feel like as a young mom, we kind of are growing up together, and I think that that's really special. I know that we say that we're supposed to inspire our children, but she inspires me every day.
Yes.
Okay, ladies, last question. Since the overall vibe of the whole thing is legacy and its impact, 100 years from now, let's just pretend everything's cool and 100 years from now, we're all, what do you hope is your lasting legacy? Now, even if your name's still not attached to it 100 years from now, what do you hope is the thing that lingers around that you put forward? Whoever has a piece.
The knowledge I'm gonna leave to those generations. I always tell my students, I wanna make sure that when I'm 150 years old and walking on a cane, that I see students on the street be like, oh, there's Maestra Yajaira. She showed me where the state of Nuevo León is situated. She showed me how to do folklorico. You know, that's what I want, that knowledge that I'm giving them right now. Even if it's not their culture, even if it's not their traditions, even if they're not from Mexico, that's the knowledge that and the legacy that I want to leave behind. remembering who was the folklorico teacher who couldn't say anything when one of the students said that ICE was gonna come and pick us all up, so.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
About legacy?
I would say, I feel like everybody will have a legacy when we're all gone, regardless if it's just this person was always really nice and that's their legacy, or this person was famous for this and that's theirs. But I feel like what you feel someone's legacy is personal, because my experience of Maria, her legacy may be something to me that may be different for you, right? So I would just say I don't want one specific thing to be remembered about me. It would be whatever everybody felt was my legacy is my legacy. That's what that is for you, because that was your experience of me. That is a clear enough answer.
You want to leave a vibe?
Leave vibes. Yeah, exactly. I would say whatever it is personal for that person
No, I
is
get
important.
it. We're all really
Yeah.
nuanced. That's a different angle.
Yeah,
I appreciate
exactly.
it. Anybody else willing to share with the group?
I would say the stories we grew up hearing in this generation are still told
Yeah,
in that generation 100 years from now.
that's a beautiful thought.
I don't know if it's going to make any sense, but
Okay.
I just want to leave I want to live forever so that I can watch all of the people that I've interact with and I've met, and I've met their heart, you know when I look at you, when I've met their heart, I want to live forever so that I could see their lives be great. And I that legacy, I want it to be for those people. If I was ever there when they needed someone, I think that's what I want.
That's beautiful. Y'all make me cry up here. Adrian.
Oh,
I know you're still kind of on the
I'm still
cusp
trying
of
to,
figuring
figuring out
out
what I
want
want
to
to do. I guess just be like you guys. You guys have inspired me a lot. Cute.
Okay, well, I think that was a pretty cool panel. I want to thank you guys for taking time off on a Friday, especially when I know all of you work today. So thank you so much for coming here. We're going to give you guys a round of applause and let you guys go home to eat, relax, whatever. Thank you so much.